Oh, welcome back to this random Turbo FX stuff. Still working on this Standardyne Model 29. If you remember before, in the previous videos, I thought that maybe these were the holes to adjust the trimmers. I don't think that's the case. What I've discovered is I took off this piece, was the shield over top of here like that. So I took that off and I've been looking inside here, and it looks like those screws that I was playing with in the front are just the screws to hold these bottom pieces of the capacitor in. There's two screws in the front, two screws in the back. If you're closer at the back ones, you'll see that there is a little sheet of mica here, and then there's a little nub of a bolt sticking out of the middle. On each of them, they have that. So I think this is actually supposed to be the trimmer. I think there's supposed to be a nut on here, and then some type of plate that would be connected to ground. Then you could tighten and loosen the nut, and it would adjust the capacitance. I believe that these metal plates on the back here are connected to the one side of the interstage coils here, and these plates are connected to this bottom half of the capacitor. Top half is connected to ground, so a plate going from here to ground would add a little bit of extra capacitance between this bottom plate and ground, which is the top plate. So two capacitors in parallel, you add the capacitance. So if we just have a little strip of metal going from this pin to ground with a nut on it that we can tighten and loosen to adjust the capacitance between that plate going to ground and this plate here, I think that would be appropriate for trimmer adjustment. Why those pieces are missing, I have no idea. These bolts are pretty chewed up, so maybe at some point someone just went crazy and way over tightened the nuts and just broke all the bolts off. I don't know. Luckily these are soft brass, so it's pretty easy to get the thread straightened out. So I can just put a nut on here. Should be able to just tighten it down. So I got those studs cleaned up, so these studs should work. And my working idea right now, I'm not sure if this is going to work, so I shouldn't say it's working, it's working theory, I guess. I made these little plates, and my idea is I'm going to put these on here, like that, and then put the bolt on, or the nut rather. And then when I tighten that down, it should, push the bottom piece of this out a little bit, and that should push against the back side of this cover here, hopefully, down towards the bottom there, hopefully, and of course, because this whole piece is grounded, so hopefully that should give us our little bit of extra capacitance there between this plate and ground, which would be the back shield. I've only made two because if you look at these ones over here, I was able to get nuts on them, but the mica sheets on these ones are pretty chewed up. So, if I can get that, I'm not sure if you can see that, but the mica sheet, pretty much this entire half of it is missing. So I'm afraid that if I bolt any of the plates on here, it's just going to touch this plate and short it out to ground, and then we're not going to get anything. So I'm going to try with these first two over here first, since those have the pretty decent mica sheets left. And if that seems to give a positive result, then I'll order some new mica sheets for these two, and we can make some plates for those too. If this makes absolutely no difference, then I'll come up with a different theory. But for now, that's what I'm going to go with. These bolts in the middle are not connected to anything. I did take one of these whole plates off here just to experiment. These two screws go right into this bottom piece of the capacitor, and then this phenolic block here just has this stud pressed into it, and then the back of that stud just presses against this even larger Bakelite or phenolic block here. So this stud is not electrically connected to anything. It's just a hold down, I think, for the nuts, and then the capacitance between this plate, which should be grounded, and this plate, which is connected to the bottom piece of the capacitor, makes up that little bit of extra trimming capacitance. So let's put this back together and see if it makes any difference. Okay, so I've got that shield back installed. As you can see, my little pieces down there are pressing against the back of that shield. Hopefully you can see that. So that should provide a good ground connection. I verified with the meter that those plates are connected to ground now. So hopefully this will give us some trimming ability. Let's turn this on. I might look into why it does that on the startup, but it does go away as the rest of the tubes warm up. So maybe they're just, not sure what that would be, because of some oscillation in the audio circuit or something. So the tubes warm up. I was able to get a light bulb for that, so the dial lights up now. How about if I connected an antenna, I think. Antenna is connected. And we're not getting anything, looks like. I think this little rubber band here on the tuning wheel is just about ready to give out. Tubes are glowing. See if adjusting these has any effect. It's kind of hard to turn these angles that they're at. So far we're getting actually nothing out of this. Well, there's something.
Fruits and vegetables in your daily diet. By taking 3 fruit and 3 veggie capsules, you can get the equivalent of
Tube socket, I think, is still a bit loose.
Capital One, where a new savings account earns an interest rate 5 times the national average. That's right, 5 times. As represented by 5 times.
Now I have the fun task of trying to adjust these.
Capital One, what's in your wallet? Terms apply. Rate comparison based on FDIC national rate. Capital One and member
Try and
FDIC.
isolate my pliers here with a little piece of paper. I don't think that's going to work, but
we're offering
I'll try it.
day delivery for free. Get prescriptions and other everyday essentials like vitamins, allergy relief, snacks, and more from your local CVS. We understand
So I'm gonna have to figure out how I can adjust these now without affecting the tuning of the radio. Ideally,
Televised coronavirus fundraiser tonight.
It's called the One World Together at Home COVID-19 Solidarity Concert.
The love letter to the world.
Kaka says it's aimed at those on the front line.
alright, let me see if I can play around with it, see if I can find a way to adjust those. I still have a bad connection here somewhere. Watch this. You hear the popping. Goes away basically. So let's see if I can figure out what the heck that is. And that may have been as simple as this bolt here being loose. Both that bolt and that screw are loose, so I tightened that down. You can see that that one's got a ground lug on the back side of it, so tighten that down. Let's see if that makes any difference. So I think now I might be chasing a problem with my antenna coil. I seem to have fixed that issue where, pushing in the middle of the chassis makes it come and go. But now you can hear it. I've got it on the antenna and it's pretty quiet, right? Now when I take the antenna off, it doesn't make any change in the audio, but if I connect right to the pin of the first tube here, so there's something wrong in between the antenna input and this tube. Now I should double check. I'm not sure whether I'm connecting to the grid or the plate. So let me hook this back up. Put this right here. And I'll try with the other tube that I have and see if that makes any difference. So I'll just pop these tubes out real quick. And there's hardly any difference there, even with this tube out. Let's see if this one. Of course, this one doesn't want to go in because it's. Let's see if that'll work. It's hitting the side of the tuning capacitor there.
Seen their sales of robots triple, and it's just getting started. I mean,
Okay, so now it's getting louder now. So I think maybe this tube is finally toast.
Airport. Well, there they have
Blowing on those tubes.
the robot known as the Neo. This is a multitasking, constantly working, hugely capable robot.
Okay, so now let me get back to playing with those trimmers. I can't really tell if they're making a difference. You can see how wide of a spread that station has. So there it goes away. It's coming in here, so we'll call that right around 5.
You mentioned at the beginning of the show, we think of robots as being kind of clumsy and danger will robots and all of that.
So it kind of dips down and then it comes back a little bit around 10. Now it's finally gone around maybe 13 or so. So I'm trying to adjust it, but I haven't really been noticing any difference. Of course, it doesn't help, even though I isolated my pliers, you can still hear the coupling in there, so.
Ultraviolet light, which breaks down the protein and fat around the coronavirus molecule, can go in and...
My antenna doesn't really be helping. It has a much better effect if I just grab onto the terminal, so I'm going to have to run my antenna in a different direction or something.
Workers can be doing other things. The robot is doing this. I also thought about it, and I've been reading up on my constitution. I feel that not having a football season would be unconstitutional.
That doesn't seem to be helping. So, could be that these little plates that I've made don't have quite the right capacitance to be able to tune it in. Or it could be that the other two that I'm not touching are so far out that adjusting these isn't really helping. So I'm going to play around with this a little bit more and see if I can make any difference here. And if I don't notice any difference, I think I'm just going to take this back off and leave it as is. Since it does receive stations, it's just, I feel like it, it could have better performance if it was able to be fine-tuned.
It certainly is, and that's what we say.
Alright, so I just took the one panel on the first stage off, and the volume went like way up. So either that stage needs much less capacitance that I'm able to adjust with this setup, or it's perfect as is. Let me try taking off the other one and see what happens. Yeah, did you hear that? As soon as I took that plate off, the volume went way up. So that setup for trimming is definitely not going to work. Maybe that's why someone took them off initially. You remove those plates out of there, because now they've fallen down on the side a little bit. So let that one stop. I'll get that out later.
You have a position there. Artificial intelligence, that's Micron's. Biotech, consumer cyclical.
So it's quite a wide spread.
Well, Amazon, Netflix, Alphabet, Twitter. I think you're going to
definitely peaks right there.
Medical devices and medical technology.
So you can see how it's still, pretty widespread, but it definitely has a much higher peak.
Electronic gaming, we just started a position there in Blue Diamond recently. Massive growth worldwide.
So it could be that the other two stages then are out of tune.
With a small position.
Volume control.
And then cybersecurity, of course. Who
Messed up or
wouldn't want to be
something. I have to try and
involved
clean
in
that.
So
Anyway.
we're talking about a portfolio.
So it still has quite a wide spread, but you can see that it has a much higher definite peak now than it had before. I'm not sure if the camera's going to pick that up for the compression, but definitely much louder right there.
So the bottom line is, you go to the Black Diamond, you want to invest in the future, you go to the...
Is it a smart idea for investors to own both?
Oh, they're picking up much else though. I think I have to fix this stupid tuning wheel. I'm going to do that right now. It's starting to get annoying. Okay, so as you can see, I've cut the wiring loom outer coating off here, so all the wires are exposed now. It's actually pretty surprising how good the condition of the wires is inside here. Obviously they're still stiff, but if you look at like outside the loom, how they're all like cracked and shrunken. You can see here, and then where the loom starts, it actually looks pretty good. But of course, if you bend it, the cracks start forming. So the black wires actually look pretty good. I don't think I'm going to really mess with those. Like even outside the loom, you can see over here, the black wires don't seem cracked or anything. So I think I'm going to leave the black wires alone. Definitely going to replace the white wires going to the power switch, just because these are line voltage here. So don't want to mess around too much with those. Want to make sure that these are good quality wires. They're not going to short out against anything. So I'm going to replace these white ones. I'll probably replace these green ones. Look pretty sad. And this yellow one here. The red one, not sure. It looks pretty good, so I might leave that alone. I might replace it, haven't decided about that yet. And this blue one here, I might replace as well. It has a bit of a crack there. This red one here looks pretty nice, so maybe I'll leave that one alone, but we'll see. So definitely going to replace at least the white ones, the yellow one, and the green ones. These green ones are the 5-volt filament for the output tube. And then the black ones are the other filament voltages. You've got the 2.25 for the 27 tube, and then I think these ones are the 1.5 for the 28 tubes. So I'm working on that, and I think I also mentioned before, I have to investigate this resistor over here on top of the platform. I think someone messed around with the filament centering resistors, so I'll have to take a look at that. And as I mentioned before, basically there's a resistor from each side of the filament windings. If the a resistor from each side of the filament supply to a central resistor which goes to ground, and then those two resistors from either side help keep the center of the filaments biased around ground, just cuts down on the hum. Because otherwise, if you just had it taken from one side, which it looks like what they've done here, then you're going to get more hum, because then the ground point would be this side of the filament, so the other side of the filament is going to have a 1.5 volt swing, versus if you have the centering resistors and then take from the center of that to ground, then each side has a maximum of half of that, so like 0.75 volt swing. So it just cuts down on the hum somewhat. So I'll have to take a look at it to see if they messed that up. Maybe because this radio does seem to have a little bit more hum than I would expect. Not a huge amount, but maybe like a little bit. So I'm not sure if that is because of that or if something else is going on. But I'm going to take a look at this and see how this is hooked up. Maybe redo that if it's not correct. So bring you back when I have done some work here. Alright, so as you can see, I've got the wiring harness replaced. I left this red wire there because that didn't seem so bad, and I left the black wires in place because that didn't seem so bad. I didn't have all the original colors, I didn't have any yellow or blue, so I just used what I had. Like these wires were white, the power switch wires, so I replaced those with white. The 5-volt filament were green, so I replaced those with green. I didn't have any blues, so I replaced the blue one with red. And let's see, where's the other one? Here. This one, I didn't have any yellow, so I just replaced it with white. So should be fine. Oops. I also got my output choke wired in properly. You can see, let's see what we can see. So I point the camera what I'm talking about. This wire here is the B plus for the output tube. So that comes through this wire into this wire, which goes into the choke, and then out of the choke comes this wire, which goes down to that terminal right there, which is the plate of the output tube. And then I've got a capacitor going from the plate of the output tube to one pin of the speaker terminal, and then I've got a wire going from the other pin of the speaker terminal over here to ground, which is right here. This is the other side. This is the ground side of the input for, I guess it's for a phono. I can't imagine what else they would have been using at that time. So this is connected to ground, so I just soldered it right on this unused lug here. So that was convenient. So, and this little wire should be fine. There should be no DC bias through here at all, just the AC sound signal, which wouldn't be much current because it's a high impedance speaker. So I think that just about sums up all the repairs that we need to make on this thing. I think I mentioned before that I got the switch working, so we're going to go with the original switch. Oh, the power cord I also changed. Okay. Oh no! The tripod is broken, and I'm running into things with it. Buy too much stuff and then I have boxes everywhere. Okay, and my tripod is not cooperating. Doesn't bend that way. There we go. So the power cord, I just tied it around the one stand here for this plate on top. I just tied it around there. That should give it a nice, good strain relief, so you're not yanking on any of the solder connectors, which is how the old one was. The old one didn't seem to have any strain relief. It just came in and was soldered right to the wires. So that's, I'm not really comfortable doing that. So I just tied it on there to give it a nice, good strain relief, so you're not yanking on any solder joints, especially these old flaky wires going to the transformer. I don't want to mess with those too much. I did wrap a little bit of tape around this, taped it to one side of the bolt for the transformer just to cut down on the wobble there. Like I said, I don't want to put too much strain on the wires for that old transformer. And I reused the original plug. Just took the old cord out and screwed the new one in. I might make a little cardboard plate to go on there just for a little bit of, not real safety, imagined safety. Probably helps a little bit with safety. The original one probably did have that when it was made, but that's just, deteriorated by now, so I might do that. And I think we're just about ready to put this thing back in. I did test this out at least once, and seems to be working just fine with the choke layout there. So I think we're just about done on this one. Okay, so I got it all back together now. Speaker's hooked up, it's plugged in, antenna's hooked up. I'm going to take the lid off because I don't like to run these with the lid on and trap all the heat from the tubes in it. This one actually doesn't look too bad on the inside, but a lot of times you'll see, a black spot or the paint will start peeling over top of wherever the rectifier tube was, with all the heat that's trapped inside there. So I like to take the lid off to run them. This one does have some vents in the back, but still, there's no reason to trap all that heat in there. So I think some of the original bolts were missing. When I put this back together, I only had enough bolts to bolt down the power supply chassis, so I had to find some new ones for the receiver. So it bolts down there and there. And yes, there's only one side of this being held down, but it's small and you can see it doesn't move at all. So I'm not going to be too worried about that. I really didn't want to have to drill a hole in this cabinet here. So that'll be fine. Not going to worry about that. It doesn't move at all, like I said, so there's no worry about any stress on any of the wires or anything. So you can see I got the speaker plugged in there where it's supposed to be. So I made that modification so we can use that with my speaker. So I might trim down some of those bolts. You can see some of them are a little bit long yet, but for now, this will do. So it makes a little chirp sound when you turn it on. Not sure if that's because of the output choke maybe causing a little bit of resonance there or what, I don't really know. It only happens that one time once you turn it on as it powers up, so I'm not going to really worry about that. Turn it around a little bit. This does still slip a little bit. And I have some extra rubber on the drum there. So it's definitely better. It's not 100% perfect, but maybe sometime I'll think of something else and redo that entire thing. But for now it'll work.
Oh, money, Mr. Governor. Money? Is that what it comes down to? Where are they going to get the money for that now, Mr. Governor? Yeah. You think that's going to work? How will I behind this damn microphone it's not going to work? Nothing? 1,000 clients receive patents. We offer 3D modeling and animation prototyping services, and we use state-of-the-art technology to present client ideas to additional companies. Join people just like you who made the call to invent health.
extremely inexpensive. You set up your account with them. One of the things you do is you register your 911 address. And so when your call goes,
You can see here, but the dial doesn't quite line up.
even if you can't.
You see it goes past 0 there, the pointer's there. But on the other side, it lines up just about perfectly, so that's a little bit of oversight on the design of the drum there. It doesn't quite match up with the plate, because like if you shifted this to make the top one line up, then the bottom one wouldn't line up, so this probably would not have been an expensive radio for its time either, but
Even if your area code in your community is not available, you're able to, when you register, you'll put in that address, and so when you call 911, it should take you to the center.
And that's going to be alright for this one. I hope you enjoyed this. This is the third part of this series of repair on this late 20s TRF, which is basic TRF radio. So hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.